If you can smell a strange smell, that's me. Drenched in whatever it is. So,
Okay.
yeah, feel amazing. I think it's an incredible day, really. So pleased with our performance. I thought we were magnificent today, Keith. I think it was a lucky win from our perspective, fully deserved. I thought the players were magnificent. Yeah, drenched in alcohol, I think, by Joelinton and the rest of the squad. But a great moment, and that's what it's all about. It's about embracing the success. You have so many difficult days in football, and this club's had its fair share over the years. So just trying to enjoy the moment.
Welcome back to another space, guys. And Newcastle have just won their first trophy in 70 years. 70 years they've gone without a trophy, and today they actually get one. Incredible. And if you think about it, they've done it the hard way. They had Arsenal in the semi-final, beat them over two legs, had Liverpool in the final, won, I'd say maybe not convincingly because the end was a bit nervy, but they definitely deserved it today, for sure. They definitely deserved it today. That was fantastic, especially in that first half. Isak obviously scoring a massive goal. And Dan Burn as well. If you know the history of Dan Burn, you know, he started off in Newcastle's academy, you know, got let go, eventually comes back to the club and he scores in the cup final. Absolutely massive for him. And if you look at Newcastle and what it's going to mean to those fans tonight, incredible. It really is. One of those things you just... I know it's not your team, but you look at it and you kind of smile because 70 years without a trophy for a club of Newcastle size is incredible. And the fact that they've delivered one against Liverpool and knocking out Arsenal in the previous round is just incredible. Liam, talk to me about the game, bro.
Yeah, they knocked out Liverpool, they knocked out Arsenal, they knocked out us. Fair play, Newcastle, bro. I mean, how many years without a major trophy? 50 odd years, something like that, even maybe longer. Fair play, Newcastle, and they absolutely deserved it today. It wasn't a fluke win. They absolutely deserved it. If anything, I think they were a bit unlucky today. I think Alexander Isak's offside goal, I think he was onside. I think, if anything, Newcastle were a bit unlucky. But they played with heart. A little bit of shithousery at the end. That's what you love to see with Tonali. And, you know, and it's good because they've got so many. You look at Bruno Guimarães, Tonali, Isak, you know, Lewis Hall, Liverpool. They've got such a good team. They really do have such a good team. And they absolutely deserve to win today. Mohamed Salah going missing, doing what he does without GA. This guy's absent. I'm sure we'll come to Liverpool. But Newcastle, well played, well deserved. And Dan Burn, as you know, like released at Newcastle when he was younger, worked his ways up, and imagine scoring a goal in a Carabao Cup final for your team you support, your homeboy team. It must be an absolute amazing feeling for him. So fair play for him, and fair play Newcastle. They showed all the heart today. Liverpool, most of the time, to the last 20 minutes, looked like they didn't even care or want it. So fair play Newcastle, fair play Eddie Howe, well deserved.
No, I totally agree, mate. Totally agree. And when you watch that Newcastle performance, you could tell they wanted it today. And that trophy is going to mean so much to that club and to that fan base, bro. 70 years without a major trophy for Newcastle, and that changes today. It's quite incredible when you think about it, right, from the size of Newcastle as a club.
No, it does. And, you know, what scares me as a Chelsea fan is now they have momentum to kick on. You know, they've got most of the players back. They've got momentum now after winning the cup final. Liverpool were lucky to be as far ahead as what they are in the league because a loss against PSG, a loss against Newcastle. You know, they're lucky they've now got that massive lead in the league. Otherwise, that could have been a struggle. So I still think Liverpool will win the league, of course. But nothing to take away from Newcastle. Brilliant today. Momentum's now with them going forward to get Champions League football. And you just got to say, Eddie Howe, start of the season, you know, there was talk about him possibly being sacked or leaving. What a turnaround. He's won the Carabao Cup, something none of us predicted him to do, I'm pretty sure. And now they're in such great, you know, stead to get a Champions League spot, especially when the teams above them look useless.
Honestly, mate, I agree. Simon, you are a Liverpool fan, so talk to me. What went wrong today, mate?
We look knackered. This is ostensibly it. All of the stuff about our performance team and what rotation we have and availability of our lads is they get played every week, and there's a whole bunch of them that are setting records for how much they've played in the season. And the first 30 games, we won the sprinting, which is from I'm an S&C, so from a physical performance standpoint, we won all 30 in the first 30 games, and we've won 3 of the last 13. The midfield just dropped off a cliff, and there's no running. And as soon as you go man for man, which they defended man for man against us, you need a burst of speed and power to get away from it, and we just don't have it in our legs. Newcastle deserved it, but I don't think we're lucky we have 12-point lead. We earned that 12-point lead, and this is the consequence of us earning the 12-point lead that we're knackered now.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I hear that. And it must be quite an unusual feeling for you guys because Wembley's been kind to you guys of late. Last few years, you got to domestic cup finals, and being a Chelsea fan, I know all too well about Liverpool winning these domestic cups at Wembley. So it must be a bit of a weird feeling today, right?
Well, you've got the wrong Liverpool fan on here, because it's a weird feeling in that I never care about the Carabao Cup, and that's actually not true. I wish we get knocked out in the first round because I fear the consequences of the thing we just talked about. It leads to 5 extra games in the busiest period of the season. We've run our first team ragged playing in garbage cups, and so that they get knocked out against PSG.
You are one of the biggest divvies I know on this app.
Fair enough.
Mate, you're a dickhead. One of the biggest dickheads going.
Apologies for that. I get tempers flaring and all that, but there's no need for that kind of stuff, mate.
But do you know where I disagree with that? What you said there is Pep Guardiola is, he goes to win this trophy every season, and he always puts his strong team out. He doesn't rotate. Why does he do that? Because you win this trophy, it gives you momentum to kick on towards the end of the season, which Man City, barring this season, always do. It gives you momentum to kick on in the Champions League.
How many times has that ever happened to anybody but City? The momentum thing. City have the biggest advantage of anybody in the league in that they have more money than everybody, and they just get to buy more players. They're a bit rubbish this season, so they go spend 200 million in January and restock. You can't say that it gives momentum, because how many other League Cup winning sides have gone on to win the league?
And then, but you could say the argument, like, how many in recent years has actually won it because Man City actually tried to win it? Like, this is why Pep Guardiola, he goes for this competition. It gives you momentum.
This competition is easy to win if you choose to put your first team out. So if you put your first team out for 5 seasons in this competition, one of the big 6, if any of those big 6 do it, they'll win it 4 times out of 6, because the other big teams don't bother putting their first teams out.
Yo, Con.
What's up?
Yo, what an amazing moment that is for Newcastle United. Football's won today. Screw the Premier League results. I don't care about that. Genuinely, I do not. Right? Tottenham lost. Yeah, whatever. We won. Yeah, whatever. Right? But Newcastle United, and sensational moment for them. They've broken their trophy drought quicker than Tottenham. Who'd have thought that? Bro, Newcastle were in the Championship. They were in the Championship about 5-6 years ago. Oh, what a moment. I'm actually so happy for them. Genuinely. Not because of my hatred for Liverpool. Nah, no way. No, but seriously. Dan Burn as well. First England call-up this week. Scores in the final. Oh, honestly. I'm actually so happy for Newcastle United. Like, I've never actually been, so happy and proud for a team that's not my team to win a trophy. I don't know if it's literally just me, but wow, what a moment for them. And the fans, the fan base, they've gone through fucking hell and back. But yeah, I just didn't expect that result at all. I didn't really expect Mo Salah to not start. I didn't expect their main goalkeeper, Alisson, to not start either. I think Slot is becoming a bit arrogant in his squad selections, in that he's not playing his key men in a cup final. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and I kind of share that sentiment, and it's no disrespect to Liverpool, but to see a team like Newcastle and the size of Newcastle, right, 70 years without a major trophies is pretty, it's a long run. And but I've been to Newcastle before to watch Chelsea, and the city loves their football, and I think it's just incredible for their fans to get this trophy. It's incredible. And if I'm a Liverpool fan, obviously I'm a bit pissed, but like I said, you can't be too mad because them at Wembley of late have been very good, right? It's been very nice to them. And if they don't win the league, I think that would be the biggest shock of the season, right? But it's
Yeah,
just nice seeing this for the Newcastle fans, because it's one of those, all right, it's not my team, but it's a one team, well, one city club, shall I say. Their fans are incredibly passionate, and 70 years without a major trophy, you can't help but smile at that.
absolutely. I mean, they won a trophy like more recent than my team. It's just such a great moment for them.
No, it is, honestly,
And
bro. It is.
do you reckon this maybe entices the likes of Bruno Guimarães, Isak to stay and sign a new contract? Because I did not see them winning this game, and I didn't see them getting top four. But I mean, the mentality shift, the vibe around that dressing room is going to change dramatically. And I think, they could definitely get top four because that vibe is going to be so healthy, so positive, so like that mentality is going to be so good heading into the remainder of this season um, for them to achieve top four.
No, I agree. I agree. Let's go to Danish. How you doing, bro? Appreciate you joining us today. What'd you make of the game today?
Good man, yeah. Thank you for having me on. Throughout the whole thing, all I kept thinking was, I swear, Joelinton body slams absolutely anyone he's up against. Every single interception, or like every single tackle, every single duel. I'd be furious if he came against Joelinton and I was like an opposition midfielder. Um, but Newcastle won the game today just with literally duels. Every duel they won, every aerial duel, every tackle. If you put the ball in the corner, they'd go ahead and chase it. If you put the ball in the air, they'd literally duel in the air like their lives depending on it. I saw somebody from the Liverpool camp say that it matters a lot more to them than it does to us, and you could tell. It might have done, and obviously less preparation time, Liverpool, because they had to go 120 minutes against PSG. But still, Newcastle still had to execute the plan that they did. A bit confused at the start because I kept thinking, why on earth are they just? I don't know what you thought about this, Connor, but they did go long a lot. But I think that might have been on purpose. The amount of direct balls they did in the first half and the second was because they could then hop on the second ball, and then that would result in a corner, and they ended up scoring from one of the corners as well. Um, but they absolutely deserved it today, and that's one of the best performances I've seen in a final out of possession, just in terms of duels wise. Jumeirah's, Joelinton, Tonali in midfield. They absolutely bullied Liverpool in midfield. Newcastle really happy for all of their fans as well. Um, it does slightly raise the question of, is it sports washing and stuff like that? But the fans, they don't control who owns the club, and they went through hell and back before, like Matt said before that. So they absolutely deserve it today.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And they've done it the hard way. They knocked out Chelsea from the Carabao Cup. They've knocked out Arsenal from the Carabao Cup, and they just beat Liverpool in the final. Talk about having a hard route. Sometimes you see the winners of the Carabao Cup and you look at their runs, and it's not exactly the hardest. Same with the FA Cup at times, right? But Newcastle really earned it, man. They knocked out some big teams in the process, and obviously beat the best in the country to win the trophy. So more power to them, man. And I hope their fans enjoy this because
You know what else
70 years is a long time.
really crazy, Con, right? Is that they literally walked through this competition. Literally up until the final, they walked it. They
Yeah,
beat us 4-0 on aggregate.
especially in the
Like
semis.
we got smoked by them. And we literally had our first game at home and they literally wrapped it up. First game. They didn't even need to play the second leg. They literally cruised it. Yeah. Like,
I have
thoroughly
to
deserve it.
I have to as well. I have to tip my hat to Eddie Howe as well. By the way, at the start of the season, I was kind of questioning him because I
Yeah,
feel like
100%.
I feel like a lot of his tactics were we're a good team that is becoming a better team, but I'm still going to go mid
The
block
start
and I'm
of the
still going to go
season,
defensive.
he was literally a bit suspect. It was like it just weren't really working. The players weren't connecting.
There were news
great.
about him being sacked, the
Yeah,
first bit of the
literally.
season.
Yeah,
Because I swear they were like what 12th, 13th at one point. I swear
They had a really bad start to the season. They couldn't win a game, but he's turned it around. I think it's mainly just because Tonali came back and the pressing came back. The pressing throughout the season from Newcastle has been excellent, but Tonali's been like a big
Tonali's a
injection
quality
of
player, by
pace.
the way. They
Yeah,
properly
it's
missed him last season.
it's that
He's
midfield.
some
I hate to
players.
come into that midfield.
Yeah, it's so physical and actually so technical as well. It's nuts.
Sorry, I was just putting out a tweet. Pythagoras, appreciate you joining as always, mate. What did you make of the game today? Pythagoras, we can't hear you, bro. I think Pythagoras is having some technical difficulties, so we'll come back to him when he's here. Roger, appreciate you joining us today, mate. What did you make of the game?
Hello, guys. Great to be here with you. I think starting talking about, especially about first half, it was interesting to see how Newcastle press Liverpool. You know, with Livramento stepping to the fullback and stepping to centre back and having this done Barn one against Salah. Well, as you say, it was Newcastle had a part of the season that I wasn't expecting much from them, but when Tonali came back, I think he was this kind of player that could give something else with the ball for Newcastle, and we all know what Newcastle can offer: a lot of second balls, set pieces, crosses, duels, high press. It's a difficult team to play against, and honestly, I'm happy for Eddie Howe. I have been following him in when he was in Bournemouth. I remember his 4-3-3 for a long time, and well, I think his evolution is curious, but at the end, I think he has he find an idea for this season that is working well, and he shows a bit what is like the modern football of nowadays with teams like Bournemouth or like Newcastle. This high press, this winning second balls, winning duels, physicality, and yeah, I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, I agree. I really like Eddie Howe as well. I think his story with Bournemouth was incredible, and to see him win a trophy as well is really good. Because I like him as a manager, and I think it's really deserved. Because if you look at how they played against Chelsea, he thoroughly deserved to win that game when they knocked us out. When how they played against Arsenal over the two legs, quite an easy tie for them, to be honest. No offense, Matt. Didn't really struggle in that semi-final at all. And today, I know the last 20, like 10, 15 minutes, I say, not even 20 minutes, last 15, 10 minutes were quite shaky for them. But overall in this game, they looked fairly comfortable. And that first half, I think, Liam, if I'm not mistaken, did Liverpool only have like one shot?
It wasn't many, I can tell you that for a fact. I tell
I
you
think they
what,
had
praise
zero shots.
to
Sorry?
Newcastle as well on their set piece tactic as well, because they got the goal from it. And you could tell every single time they got a corner, Dan Burn was the biggest threat in the game. Literally, he got the goal, but there was one before that where it was blocked. Like, they worked on that.
They went deep, yeah.
Yeah, they worked on it, and fair play Newcastle, because that exploited Liverpool. That one set piece there that they worked on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pythagoras, are you here now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, bro.
Perfect. Yeah, just going off on what some people said. I mean, I wasn't surprised by the result today. Liverpool, it was always going to take a knock on them, going out to PSG the way and the manner they did. And obviously, they don't rotate a lot. But looking at it from a Newcastle perspective, if we go back 2 years ago, like how they dealt with everything, they had top four in their hands, I believe. They almost threw top four away to prioritise that cup final against United. But then after that, after they lost that cup final, they introduced Willock and Isak. And at the time, I was shocked because Joelinton was blowing puffs because he was really knackered going into that final. And Callum Wilson just didn't have it. So Isak and Willock were really like, as soon as they came on, they almost sort of got back into the game against United. But after they lost that United game, Willock and Isak were absolutely massive in them getting that top four. So they already overcame a hurdle, even though it's not a final. But getting back to the Champions League is sort of a final in a way, especially after you lose the cup final. What was it, 70 odd years? And then what's the following season? I mean, what was that again? Was that last year? It was last year. They just drowned. I remember they were like walking around the pitch at times because they had like 11 injuries. It was really painful to view, and obviously it's aged pretty well because I just think they had too much football and the style was a bit too intense. And if you look at Eddie Howe, how he's sort of adapted, I mean, they've gone from having like a 3-man workhorse midfield, like a bit like the Klopp Liverpool, and like the fullbacks it was Trippier, and on the left was Byrne, and Byrne was being asked to do like that Guardiola role where it's not made for their bodies. They're not designed to do it, yet they are doing it like beyond their physical means, and eventually they'll break down. I mean, look at Guardiola. He's sort of like he can't do it that well anymore, like that left back role. And now Dan Burn's being pushed into the centre. They had Hall and Livramento, so they still maintained that midfield workman-like three. But Eddie Howe knew, right, we're defensively stable, but to get to that next level, we're going to need to like be a bit more attacking and flary. So he did that, but then they kept on getting attacked on the wide areas. And yeah, Hall's improving. He can do well, but Livramento, he's lost a bit of agility. He did well today, but there weren't many one-on-ones he had against Salah. But if you look at Livramento in that Birmingham City game, he got torn to shreds by Keshi Anderson, but that was from right back. So now he's put him on left back. So just these little tweaks everywhere. And now all of a sudden he's shut up shop again because obviously Hall is injured. So he's playing a bit more defensive in the fullback areas. But instead he's got Tonali in there. And Tonali's giving them that creativity. So all these little tweaks, like, okay, let's go a bit more offensive. Oh, now the balance isn't right. Let's get a bit more defensive. Okay, let's get a bit more offensive in this area. Okay, Jacob Murphy is going to give us more defense from right wing, which will allow Isak to save his legs because he's injury prone. It's just fantastic management all around. He keeps doing these little tweaks constantly, and eventually he gets the final picture. So all these calls about him being sacked last season were, to me, very cringy because you could see how much effort they put in. And if you remember, well, they were in the group stage, in that group of death, with PSG and Dortmund. I mean, Dortmund were the finalists, and PSG, a high-quality team. And I believe they had like some seriously bad refereeing luck to get knocked out of that group. So I've always been Eddie Howe in. I've always thought if England are going to get an English manager, he's on the front runner of that list. And just look at Joelinton today. I mean, I've put a tweet out saying if you look at how Eddie Howe has approached ever since they got to that final, they beat Arsenal, my team. They fully deserved it. They battered us. But ever since then, I wanted to see what are the similarities, what are the differences between how they approached the final this time round compared to how they approached it against United. Because United, they just threw away all the league campaign. This time they didn't. Yes, they lost a couple of games, but they also won a few. And each time they lost, they bounced back. And Eddie Howe knew sort of, right, the best way to get to that final is don't make, I was going to say a mountain out of a molehill, but it's never a molehill if you haven't won a trophy for that long. It's always going to be, to an extent, a mountain. But you don't make it unbearably too much pressure. And he said, well, some players, they need to detach, some players need to feed into it. And he's embraced that because a lot of the time I see a lot of managers just get in that sort of hive mentality. And that's all well and good when people can buy into it. Look at Mourinho, for example, for Inter Milan. Everyone sang from the same hymn sheet. But that's with legends like, Lucio, Cambiasso, Eto'o. They're all built from the same cloth, right? But players like Shaw and Joelinton, these aren't to that level of player. So each one's going to have a slightly different mentality. And he's embraced that. He's been like, right, football's a team game, but there are individuals within that. this person doesn't cope with pressure well in this regard, so I'm going to sort of take him out of the limelight and all. So it's just been perfect. I'm rambling on a bit, but it's a Eddie Howe loving hour. I think he deserves it massively. So
No, I agree. I think Eddie Howe's a very underrated coach. I've always liked him ever since the Bournemouth days. I think he's very good, and I think this is very deserved for him. Just like it was for Newcastle players on the pitch
well,
today.
they
I think
called him a
those men.
tippy tappy merchant at Bournemouth, but he's proven the opposite of that, if anything, at Newcastle.
Yeah.
They could say haram ball, passion merchancy, just athletes running around. And to an extent, that was true. But in a way, I mean, credit to him, it shows he can adapt. But now he's got Tonali in there. There's a bit of guile in midfield with Guimarães. So, I don't mind watching them, to be honest.
Nah, same. And I think the point you made about that 70 years without a trophy is a long time to go, right? So when you are in these high pressure moments, it can be kind of hard to get over that. I think we've seen that with teams like Spurs in the past, right? But I think that's what makes today so good and like so enjoyable just as a football fan to see a team like Newcastle who have such a massive fan base, who are respectfully a big club, right?
Yeah.
Overcome that hurdle and they've knocked out Chelsea, Arsenal and beat Liverpool in the final. It doesn't get much harder than that, does it? Let's be honest.
No,
I think
exactly. So, I mean, the next point for them is, can they get that back into the Champions League? This should really be beneficial for them to push for those places. But it's all to do with the rotation for me from here on in. I mean, they've got a player called Asuna who made a big difference in the FA Cup against Birmingham, but you can't just play that Wilson. Wilson's just dead on his feet at the moment. He comes on for 5 minutes, he already looks knackered.
yeah, that's
So
true.
you got to. So Eddie Howe. Next point for Eddie Howe is to prove that he can really say. I mean, we had these issues with Arsene Wenger when he had a bit too much trust in certain players that weren't good enough, like Denilson. He's got to show that cutthroat mentality now to be like, look, mate, you're not good enough anymore. I've got a kitty, a bag of money, and there's a player who wants to join us who's better than you. Sorry, you're either on the bench or you're leaving. That's the next bit I want to see from Eddie Howe because he's still seen as a bit of a nice guy. And nice guys, they don't do. I mean, look at Zola. The only one that in memory that does well is Claudio Ranieri. So you've got to get that balance right between being cutthroat and being that kind, nice guy.
No, I agree. Mickey, let's get your thoughts on today's game. Newcastle beating Liverpool in the final. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
I thought, first of all, it was amazing cup final, incredible atmosphere. It's everything you want in a cup final. Sometimes they don't really turn out that well. Beautiful game. I have to say, Arne Slots. Not sure about him in the big games as like as a tactician. Not sure he got his tactics right today or against PSG, to be honest. Um, but I have to say, yeah, everyone's giving credit to Eddie Howe, obviously doing well. I'd say their ownership is done. They are owned by Saudi in the similar way that Chelsea is owned by Arsenal. But I have to say that they picked up the right manager in Eddie Howe, and he's done very, very well for themselves. I thought as well, like Newcastle. You wonder if they have like the legs to, they were sort of built on this physicality, and you wondered if they had the ability to, make the Champions League because their lack of, the ability to control the game. But I thought they just look so good, and they are starting to become like a proper outfit, which is a little bit scary, a little bit terrifying. But it's been a wonderful day. Tottenham lost. We're one day away from St. Totteringham's Day. Obviously, we dominated Chelsea as the usual, and watching Liverpool get knocked down a peg, not bad as well. So all in all, a great day of football, Con. A wonderful day. I'm sure you enjoy the day as well. But I have to say, really, really good from Newcastle. And I have to say that, I wanted to sort of mention this again, which is that watching Slot, like they do look like Liverpool as a team look like under pressure. They do tend to look a little bit wobbly. They never really look like they were in it. I just have to say that maybe some question marks on the manager here. It's not for everyone to win a domestic cup on their first season. Obviously, very difficult to do. Very few managers are able to do that. Looks like Arnie's not going to be one of them. Just a great day.
And just to step in and then say a few words on Slot. There's been a lot going around in regards to his tactics, him not getting the tactics right, the player rotations and stuff. But the one thing people always forget is context when it comes to games. And the context that people are missing is this team is not suited to play a man-to-man press. We have seen that for ages. We've seen it under Klopp. We've seen it against Atlanta last season. We've seen it against PSG in the 2 rounds. And we also played, Bologna also tried a man-to-man press, but they just weren't good enough to be able to hold us back. But Newcastle, the only team we found it really, really difficult in the Premier League was against Newcastle in both legs. And it just comes down to that. We don't have the technical players in midfield to get the ball from the defense into midfield and progress it. The best way to put this would be Vitinha had a complete masterclass against Liverpool in 2 legs. That is the player we are missing. That is the player you need when you're playing against a team that press man to man. And that's something we don't have. And another thing on Slot would be, yes, he didn't get most of the tactics right. For example, the first half, all we did was go long. But the second half, the first play was drop Gravenberch and drop McAllister, get it to Van Dijk, and Van Dijk pushes up. That should have been done since the first minute or even in the second leg against PSG, which we didn't do. So there are some issues against Slot in terms of the player rotations, which Pythag mentioned. Going with Diaz and Jota when you know nothing's going to happen. Yes, Gakpo's injured and he hasn't got enough minutes. But where has Chiesa been all along? The time I saw Chiesa on the sidelines, I was like, oh, wait, Slot realizes he has a player on the bench. I didn't know this. Because I've never seen that guy in ages. The last time I saw him was against Accrington Stanley, which was a dead rubber, and not ever since that. So yes, there are a few question marks over him, and there have been a lot of errors or question marks again with respect to his out of possession approach. But at the end of the day, context is what matters. And the context is the fact that Newcastle go man to man. They didn't go against man to man against us when we played them at Anfield, which Slot mentioned in the presser, by the way, after the game. I expected them to go man to man and press us high, but they didn't. So we found it much easier. He said it right after that. So we know we're going to struggle against them. So I don't see why that's a surprise. And another thing, just to say this, would be Newcastle also showed Chelsea that if it's a final, you're supposed to turn up and play well. Maybe the Chelsea players should take some inspiration from them and showing up. And also another fact is that Liverpool didn't, which is also something they should look at because Newcastle players looked much more. They just felt like they wanted to win the game more than Liverpool, and that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. No matter how good your tactics are, the players are supposed to show up on the pitch, and none of them did that today. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Rohit, let me ask you a question about a certain winger Liverpool employing Mohamed Salah, right? In the Champions League against PSG, he was nowhere to be seen, and today, again, nowhere to be seen. And obviously, he's had a fantastic season. His numbers speak for themselves, right? But as a Liverpool fan, are you kind of looking at Salah a little bit and saying, where were you in these 2 very, very big moments for us?
Yes, there are a few question marks, but I won't entirely pin it down to him because everyone's known that Salah's been dragging us through the league, but a team can't be reliant on one person to drag the team across 4 competitions, week in, week out, thrice a week. Monday, Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday, if you like, for example. So that just can't be the norm. But at the end of the day, another thing would be today, especially with Kwancha at right back, Salah didn't have the marauding runs from Trent to help him move inside or move in field and operate there. So that was a big issue as well. So it all comes at the end of the day, it comes down to how the team tactics affect a player. Because just because a player is on the pitch doesn't mean it's going to change the entire game. So yes, I'm not happy with the fact that Salah hasn't been the best for the past 3 days, but that also goes for the entire team. So I can't single out Salah and be like, oh, you didn't play well, so that's not good on you. And where are you? He's done that for what 30 weeks, 29 weeks now, and all the Champions League games as well. So 1 week is not going to change my opinion on him. He's still a great player, but I just think some things have to be changed. And more importantly, Salah and Gakpo, and I don't think that front Jota, Diaz, and Salah is the right front 3. The combinations just don't work for me. It's never worked for Slot, especially in this season throughout the season when the three played together. So it also comes down to how the frontline dynamics works. So yeah, I mean, you can all say whatever you want about Salah, but at the end of the day, the numbers speak for himself, as you said, and he shows his class on the pitch, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Well, he didn't today. That's Con's point. But the thing, I might have a controversial take here. There's 4 of us in Pythag. I'm probably in the most extreme of being, a little bit against Salah. One sort of on the fence. One sort of likes Salah, and the other one absolutely loves him. But for me this season, I mean, if you take away the goals and the assists, and I know that's the most important thing, I just don't see like him tearing up fullbacks or him, tracking back, helping his defenders, or like going past 3 or 4, putting chance on a plate. I mean, look at the game against Everton. Look at the game against Wolves. He's basically getting pocketed by Ike Nori and
See,
Mikalenko.
I don't like that personally, because you could say take away the GA, but the GA is at such an absurd level compared to everybody else. You can't just say that. Like, you take away GA, and if he's close around everyone else, like, fair enough. But the amount of GA he's got this season is on another level
I know
compared
that.
to
Yeah, I
everyone
know that,
else.
Lynn. But if you put that on top of, for example, Eden Hazard and his primes, like just general gameplay, then it is like
I
outrageous.
think quite that the biggest thing that you're going against is the fact that Salah is not a player who takes his man on a 1v1, beats him to the byline, and then puts a cross in or scores a goal. Salah is a player who creates space with his dribbling, and with that space he creates his chance or creates a shooting goal. You
Yeah,
mentioned about Everton. I can explain this. The goal against Everton 3 seasons ago when he won the Puskas Award for it, he dribbles against 2-3 players. He creates a space for himself and then he shoots.
oh yeah, he's one
That's
of the
the type
best
of
at that.
player
I'm
he
not
is.
asking him to
So
go past
exactly.
players.
So you can't compare him to a winger or even a Hazard and say, oh yeah, his close control is not
No,
good
but
enough.
it's
They're
what they
completely
it's
two
what they
different
ask
type of
from him.
players. So at the end of the day, you can't say take out his GA and then say that. So I can do the same thing. Take out Hazard's dribbling and where is his GA and what's the answer you're going to have for me then?
Well, you're taking out his dribbling and his GA there. But if you
No,
let's say
I'm
Henry,
taking out his
you take
dribbling
away
and show me what his
Henry's.
GA is. Hazard's best goal GA is 50 in the Premier League, if I'm not wrong.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying
So take out his
I'm just
dribbling.
saying for example.
No. See,
Yeah, but then
Patrick, I'm
if
just
you
saying
take out
if you're gonna
Henry's
one
GA,
second. So 1 second, please. I'm just saying, if you're gonna say take out Salah's GA and show me what he does on the pitch, I'm gonna say take out Hazard's dribbling and show me what he does on the pitch. So it's a moot
yeah, I'm
conversation at the end
saying
of the
do
day.
that to Henry. I'm not saying Hazard. Henry's a different level to Hazard as well. But when I'm hearing stuff like best Premier League export ever, if you take away Henry's GA, there's still a hell of a lot of incredible moments, like dropping down to the left, taking on 3-4 players, like tracking back, it just everything. So
You can't
Salah for
complain
me,
Salah's
if you're
not
going to
tracking
rate him that
back.
highly, say again, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Firstly, I didn't say Salah's the best right winger in the Premier League.
No,
Secondly,
but
there's
I'm
no
hearing a lot
evidence.
of it from people, and at the end of the day, most of his contributions have been in the second part of the season. I remember in that Champions League final, he wasn't good. Mane absolutely dragged that team forward. Alisson made some good saves. Salah looked nervous for the penalty, but Lloris is just so crap. He just smashed it down the middle, or wherever it was, and Lloris dived out the way. In the AFCON final, he had a shocker. Koulibaly pocketed him. In the rematch they had a few months after for the World Cup playoff, didn't he miss a penalty? And he was just shocking in general. And that's never a good
Pythag.
sign because you.
Pythag. But honestly,
Yes.
all I'm hearing is a rival fan trying to put him down.
No.
That's all it is.
I'm just.
That's all it is.
He's not to blame lately because he's in his 30s. He's wrong side of 30, and the rest of the team need to step up. He's done remarkably well to get the goals and assists, and he's got sort of no right to get those numbers at his age. Fair play to him. Yes, the others need to step up, but but my issue is like if you look at Liverpool last season, and when Salah performs really, really well in general play, it's when he has those runners off him and he's got the strength where others win the duels, and that's when Gakpo and Nunes play. Now Nunes has really messed it up for himself. His lack of discipline, because for me, when I've seen Salah at his best in these last couple of years, is when Gakpo and Nunes intertwine between being on the left wing and centre forward. He's got two big men, 6 foot plus, pace like mad, dual monsters. And now instead he's been left with midget Hotter and a Pastor Diaz. Salah's not going to do anything with them two. And I don't know why Slot would start. I mean, I'd bleed and start Soboslai up top. We saw how Soboslai ran beyond the line against Aston Villa. He did it like ridiculous amounts, the amount of chances Soboslai had in that 3-game period in a week. And now he's dropping him back into midfield. I didn't even see one run like that from Soboslai against PSG or today. So I think a little bit of it's to blame on Slot, but imagine that was a Roy Keane, right? I liked Salah's reaction after that penalty miss by Nunes. Like, Curtis Jones was clapping, like, oh, well done, Nunes, oh, you tried. Salah looked at Jones in disgust. That I like that mentality because it's like, no, we're not going to mollycoddle people for failure here. But at the same time, the next level for Salah would be like Roy Keane. Roy Keane would knock on Slot's door and be like, look, start Nunez, start Gakpo, and I'll feed them. Because Hot and Diaz aren't doing it at the moment. But obviously, not everyone's built from that Roy Keane cloth. But I'll be knocking on Slot's door and demanding that. Because at the end of the day, there are 12 more points between Liverpool and Arsenal. But Liverpool can't just coast it. Liverpool are such a good team. They could coast not losing. But that still means that you're losing 2 points. You can't just gain 1 point, 1 point, 1 point if Arsenal get 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. Because after 3 games, that's 6 points made up. Right? So now everything's on the league. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because obviously, on one hand, all the pressure's on the league. On the other hand, you're going to save your legs. And 12 points does look pretty steep right now. But look at Arsenal. They won today against Chelsea. There wasn't that pressure on Arsenal. Mickey's doing love hearts at the moment. And to be honest, Arsenal being in that sort of all-win, the top 5 race now, that might help them in terms of just winning these games. So, I don't know, Liverpool really need to switch on because you can't draw too many. So,
You know what it is with Arsenal, right? Is that we literally play so good when the pressure isn't on. And I bet you after the international break, a game that's not Real Madrid, we will turn up because that is just classic Arsenal. We don't turn up in the big moment. It happened last season. It happened this season. There's a regular theme going on, and it all comes down to not signing a striker because we're playing a midfielder up top. That's how embarrassing it is. And he's actually.
Wait,
I don't
what's
know
more
why.
embarrassing, having Marino up front or having him outscored Cole Palmer? What's more embarrassing? Than that?
Well, Cole Palmer wasn't playing today, mate. He was actually injured. So.
don't you mean the Hoyland Xerxes thing, not Cole Palmer?
But
This year.
since we're talking about strikers, guys, I think that's a good segue into Isak. Obviously, he scores in the semi-finals, scores in the finals today. What a player Isak is, right?
Yeah, I mean,
He's one of the best players in the league, hands down. I mean, his all-round game. You look at his link-up. You look at his, his finishing, left foot, right foot. You look at him in the air at times. He's a proper player. He can run it. Yeah, I used to have my reservations because I used to think, right, he does a bit too much at times. When he rounds a keeper, he tries to do a bit too much when he's on the ball. Try to take 1 or 2 men on, which he shouldn't. Play it simple. But this season, especially this second half of the season, he's really refined his game. So he's doing things at the right time. He's not overthinking things. When he gets a chance, he just buries it like he did with his goal. And I've got to say, the offside goal, I don't think was offside. I didn't see the offside there. If I'm honest.
it's pathetic. That was the keeper could literally see the ball, and the ball went around the player after it had been hit, but he saw where the ball had been hit from. And then Gary Neville says he dives around the player to save it. No, he doesn't. The player's 3-4 yards in front of him, but also a little bit to the side. So he could see where the shot came from and he could see where it was going. So if the player didn't exist, he would still have made that same exact dive. So it's not offside.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't think it was offside either. I looked at it and they didn't even do the lines for it, which I found was a bit weird, considering it was extremely tight. Well, you'd thought so anyway, but he looked on to me. But in the end, it didn't matter, so I suppose nothing really comes from it. But yeah, it's been a good day of football, I suppose, for some. It's been horrible for some others, namely for the Liverpool fans and the Chelsea fans in here. Absolutely fucking horrible day. But yeah, I suppose football turned up today. Now we've got an international break coming up. Unfortunately, it's not the most exciting time to be a football fan, but we get to see Thomas Tuchel with his first England team, and I'm extremely excited for that. To get a break from Chelsea and to watch Thomas Tuchel, yes, sign me up for that because I don't want to watch any more Chelsea for a couple of weeks.
I was ready to
Especially
talk about Chelsea as well.
Con.
So what was
do
that,
you
Pie
think-
Fag?
I was ready to talk about Chelsea as well, but it seems like you don't want to.
Yeah, go ahead. Before we end, let's hear what you got to say, Pie Fag.
Well, from an Arsenal perspective, mate, as soon as I saw your team sheet, I was like, shit, they're going for a back three. And back threes against us are working. But the fact that you didn't was just mind-boggling. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. And Nkunku and Sancho, neither of them are running in behind. You can't press from the front. I'm seeing some tweets saying, Chelsea only got dominated for the first 25 minutes, and after that it was more even. But of course it is, because once the team scores, Arsenal always sit back, so they're going to allow you back into it to an extent. I mean, that's negative for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta to sort of push through. They've been doing it of late, other than this game. You know, they get one, they try and go for another, which is unlike Arteta. It's sort of saw in the PSV game. But no, from a Chelsea perspective, I just don't like Maresca's body language. Timber was giving him shit on the sidelines just before
That was funny.
full-time whistle. And he said, like, try harder or something. I can't remember what
Good.
he said, but say again.
Like, is it like what Maresca was giving Timber criticism?
No,
or...
it didn't. He was, well, Maresca with a smiley face said something to Timber. Timber looked at him in a sort of, with a stern face, like, F off, mate, sort of thing. And Maresca just sort of accepts it and shakes his hand. And this is just like a minute. This is just
Oh
a
my
minute
God.
before full time. I'd
I
be
didn't even
raving.
see
I'm
that.
not-
I didn't even see that, bro. Like me and Con, obviously we did our playback. We went on for ages. Most Chelsea fans have given up on Maresca. It's just his inability to change. And what annoyed me the most today, and I think it annoyed every Chelsea fan, was playing the back three until the 86th minute. I think, right, he's finally changed it. He's put on a fullback. He'd go to a back two, risk something. And he plays Malagusto as another centre-back. That today just showed that this guy is not willing to change no matter what. And his system was found out in December. He hasn't changed it. He's continued to stay the same. At that point, you know, what's the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again. You know, it's not going to work. Either he changes his system or he's got to change.
If he
But
made
One
you
of
know,
those
some
two
people
things.
would
I
argue
think
that
the one.
there's a fine line between that and patience is a virtue.
But would you
No,
take him if you if you got Chelsea into top four? Would you take him for another season?
if he made Chelsea into top four and Conference League, I would say probably yes, but he's at a very, very fine line with me. I don't think he's going to get top four anyway. Me and I made a bet earlier today of £100 that we won't get top four. That's how confident I am that this guy's not the
Wow.
right man. I don't think he is.
Fair
The
enough.
state of
I think the
Chelsea
biggest
supporters
concern.
betting against their own club. The state of that.
It's just being realistic. I'm realistic. I don't see us. I mean, you look at the teams below us, theoretically. Newcastle, who's just come off a great result. Forest, I don't see dropping off. City, I'm going to claw it back. I can almost guarantee it. And if it isn't one of those other teams, you know, there's 3 or 4 ready to take their place. I just don't see, especially with our other games. We've got Liverpool, we've got Newcastle, we've got Tottenham, we've got Brentford away. Brentford at home are very good. We've got Fulham, who just beat Tottenham 2-0. I just don't see where the points are going to come from. I just don't.
You know what? Right, back in like October, November, it had such an interesting thing because you had like so many options in attack, and it was a case of Thursday evenings, the players who didn't play in the Prem got to sort of show their stake in the midweek fixtures, and that put pressure on the Premier League starters to keep performing the way they did. But then after a while, it was like no matter how bad the Premier League lot played, the people who played on Thursday wouldn't be allowed in. So it was sort of to begin with, it was brewing to be like fantastic sort of competition for squad places. But then after a while, it was like, no matter what you do, mate, or no matter how tired the Premier League lot are, you guys who are playing on Thursday, you're not going to get a look in on Saturday and Sunday.
And do you know what proves that point the most? And that the fact that hasn't changed. Cole Palmer picked up a knock, according to Maresca in his press conference last week. We then played him through Copenhagen, and now apparently he's injured for possibly past the international break, and that's why he missed today. We were winning against Copenhagen. There was no need whatsoever to sub him on. Just rest him. If you know he's got a knock, why would you play him against Copenhagen when there's no point? You know, and now he's out for the Arsenal game. And if he's out past international break, that makes our Champions League, qualification so much harder.
Yeah, so that was just odd for me. And, what's most shocking was when Ben Jacobs was here. Me and him almost got into a bit of a row, but then obviously things changed and the conversation moved on. But I was saying Felix's value is higher than Nkunku's in terms of if somebody should outright buy him, Nkunku, with the injuries he's had, with his place in the team, and with his lack of adapting to different roles, you know, and the fact that Chelsea put a 70 million price tag on his head. I can't remember the last time a player who had a good reputation, who was in his prime years, joined a team, didn't start for whatever reasons. Well, in his case, injuries, bad form, and lack of adaptability. And then a year and a half or whatnot afterwards, the club who paid a significant fee. How much did you pay for him? 45, 50 million?
I think it was about 55, 60, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
okay,
Something
55,
about that.
60, significant fee. All of a sudden sit and think to themselves, we're going to make his price 70. He's somehow gained valuation in this year and a half period where he's not played and he's been injured. That to me is mind boggling. And instead, you loan out Felix for 5 million, which is peanuts. Well, I mean, you could have done with him in terms of, well, just an option and a variety.
But it's
Starting.
okay, Pythagoras. We just signed a 17-year-old winger who's not played in any high-level league for no reason whatsoever. So it's okay.
Hold on a minute. He's performed in the Champions League and he's actually done quite well in the Champions
No, he's not. Come on, Matt.
Yeah,
He's not for like. What has he done to signify that he could be the one to change Chelsea? Like, he's done nothing.
He starts for Sporting. He's done pretty well in the Champions League, in my opinion. Yes, we did smoke them 5-1, but overall in the Champions League, he has actually performed.
But come on,
well
Matt. Like, is he going to be the player to come in and think, right, Chelsea's new attacker? He's going to be the one you can point at and think,
no one knows
right?
No one knows that.
No, yeah,
Did anyone expect Ethan Nwaneri to score 8 goals for Arsenal in the?
But look at what Ethan Nwaneri's coming into.
Has.
He's coming into a solid defensive structure. He's coming into a really good midfield. He's got Saka ahead. There's a foundation there. Look what he's coming into with Chelsea. He's an utter mess with children all over the place. People that haven't had the experience at the highest level. He's coming into an absolute mess, Matt. That is what he's coming into. And no player, bar a world-class talent like Cole Palmer, is going to come into Chelsea and be like, right, this is a stable ground, because these young players need someone to learn off to guide them. We do not have anyone to guide these young players. We don't have anyone.
I agree with that.
I think the biggest concern with respect to Maresca is the fact, not the tactical stability or the changes that he's not making, but more the fact the in-game or tactical tweaks. I think Khan, your mic's turned off.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying that I'm not too worried about the tactical flexibility that Maresca doesn't have, because he can learn that. But my biggest issue has always been the small in-game changes that he does. The start of the season, I mentioned this, the rotations and stuff was very monotonous. The first half, Palmer played on the right. I think it was Sancho, someone who played on the left. And then the second half, they used to switch half spaces, and Palmer played off the left and the other player played off the right. It was very monotonous. And this game, especially, it was so evident that Timber was pushed up and they were able to manipulate Nkunku's positioning to create a 2v1 versus Cucurella. And he did nothing until the 45th minute, until half time. I think towards the end of half time, he switched Sancho and Nkunku, and it became slightly better. But the fact that every single attack of Arsenal was funneled down the right to purely to capitalize on the 2v1 against Cucurella, and he did nothing about it for the first 45 minutes is absolutely astounding to me. I don't know why. Is it? I can't come up with a reason to back him on this. I'm still thinking about why.
No, I agree. But one, I've got a little criticism for the Chelsea fans. Like, look, United, they've sort of accepted their demise after Sir Alex. Obviously, Moyes, they were really angry at. After that, they sort of, after the Mourinho and Van Gaal, they sort of accepted it with Solskjaer, like, we're just shit sort of thing. And there's no pressure on the players. But when I look at Madueke and Jackson, you could have done with them today. But whilst they are playing, they're getting so much scrutiny. Like, you're holding them to the esteem of, like, the Drogbas. Like, you're expecting that level in terms of, we're used to this, so we're going to hold you to that level. Rightfully so in a way, because you need to keep your high standards. But when the players are that young, you need to give them a bit of leeway. And I think Chelsea fans are almost too demanding for everything to work. But at the same time, I
But
can't
that's the
understand.
problem. Pythagoras, just quickly though, the problem with that is the majority of the players are just too young.
Yeah.
So that's where the issues come. If you have just a few players that are a bit young, you can give them time, right? Because you've got like a solid foundation there. But the problem is where Morris, the whole team is so young,
No,
it's
yeah, I
just.
agree. There's nobody you can, like. You have to point things at someone at the end of the day, and everybody's a young player. And the managers.
Like,
Yeah.
do you know what makes it like if Chelsea were in that final today and we're 2-1 up against Liverpool? Do you reckon any of our players are fighting to hold it in the corner flag? They don't have the experience to do that. Like these guys would just try and play their football, attack. If they were in the same position, they're not going to try and hold it in the corner and see out time. We don't have players that can come on, know what it takes to win a game, to see out a game, or to make a difference because they're all so young.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at least on a positive note, guys, your keeper got praised by your manager, so yeah, you should be happy with the standings.
Oh my God! Don't start me on Robert Sanchez.
And on that note, guys, I think we're going to end there. Appreciate everyone who came to speak, and congratulations to Newcastle, man. 70 years, no trophy, beating Liverpool, knocking out Arsenal in the semis, and then obviously knocking out Chelsea earlier. You can't say it's not deserved, so fair play to them.
Away the lads.
Just really quickly, I've got one more thing to say.
Sorry but no.
Away the lads.
I'm all footballed out today. My team let me down massively, and I've got 2 weeks to get over it before Tottenham. So, yeah, Mickey, enjoy beating one of the worst fucking teams in the league at the moment. Enjoy that. Matt, also enjoy beating one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. And yeah, hopefully get to see the Super Tommy Tuchel when he's England sides. That I'm looking forward to. So, yeah, until next time, guys, thank you for joining. Thank you for speaking. And yeah.